The smell of seared duck fat and caramelized shallots still hung in the empty dining room when the last investor left. The lowboy refrigerators hummed under the white marble island. A damp towel, sharp with bleach, dragged beneath my palm as I wiped the counter in overlapping circles. Camille stood on the other side, a half-finished glass of Cabernet in one hand and the expression of someone trying not to look at the cliff directly behind her. She had put nearly everything she owned into restoring this old building. Elias Ward, the lead outside investor, was still holding back the final $100,000 in operating funds. Under the operational readiness clause, he could demand one full-capacity stress test before release. If we failed it, the default provisions gave his group a path to seize controlling equity at a deep discount. And if Camille lost control, I lost the kitchen, the brigade, and 8 months of work I had built from bare brick and disconnected gas lines. 2 constraints, one legal, one financial. Neither of us could simply walk away. Camille tapped one fingernail against the wine glass. They hated the scallop crudo. They finished 12 plates of it. Elias said the acidity was aggressive. Elias also asked Julian whether the salt cellar was French. The corner of her mouth moved. I tossed the towel over my shoulder. He ate every bite. She watched me for a second, then glanced toward the dark dining room. After the dinner guests left, she said, swirling the last inch of wine, I thought the hard part was finished. It was never going to be that generous. Her smile came back, tired but real. The appetizer's over. When does the main course start? I opened a bottle of sparkling water instead of answering the tease. When you tell me what Elias said after I went back to the line. The smile vanished. He invoked operational readiness. I stopped pouring. He wants the full stress test tomorrow night. No controlled pacing, full house, maximum turn. Of course he does. And he wants the independent compliance auditor there. That made me look up. Our audit window was Saturday morning. He moved his contractual review to the same 24-hour period. The auditor can arrive anytime Saturday. So the main course starts now. Camille nodded. If we miss a readiness metric, Elias can instruct the fund administrator to keep the last 100,000 frozen while he sends a default notice. And if you can't fund payroll and opening inventory, he offers to recapitalize in exchange for control. There it was. He wanted the restaurant distressed enough that Camille would have to sell him the wheel. I folded the towel once and set it down. What time does he want the room full? 6:30 tomorrow. I checked the kitchen clock. 11:47 p.m. 20 hours and 43 minutes. The walk-in inventory had been calculated for a gentle opening weekend, not a packed dining room engineered to fail. 2 new line cooks still needed reminders on plating order. The short rib braise could handle pressure, the venison could not. Our halibut order was too small. Camille lifted her wine glass again. I took it from her hand and replaced it with sparkling water. Her eyebrows rose. That was bold. You've been awake since 5. I own the restaurant, and I own the next 6 hours in this kitchen. You do not own my schedule. No, I own whether anxious people pace behind my cooks. That stopped her. I pulled a clear family meal container from the reach-in, filled it with roasted root vegetables and a piece of grilled chicken, snapped the lid shut, and slid it across the marble. Eat, then use the sofa in your office. I have vendor numbers to review. You can review them at dawn. I'm not going to sleep. You don't have to sleep. You do have to leave my line. She stared at me. I held her gaze and pointed toward the office corridor. No promise that everything would be fine. Just a meal, a locked room, and one less place for her fear to spread. Camille picked up the container. You're a dictator. I prefer organized nuisance. That is not better. It is more accurate. She turned toward the hall, then looked back. Adrian? Yeah? If I lose the building? You haven't... That wasn't what I was going to say. I waited. Her fingers tightened around the plastic container. If I lose it, I know what it costs me. I also know what it costs you. I looked past her at the prep line Noah and I had built from bare brick. Then let's not make Elias's job easy. She gave one short nod and walked away. The office door clicked shut. I turned back to the kitchen. At midnight, I called Noah. He answered on the fourth ring. If this is about brunch specials, I resign. Full stress test tomorrow. Silence. Then, what did Elias do? Held the last disbursement under operational readiness? When do you need me? 4. I'll bring coffee. Bring halibut. That is significantly worse. I hung up and called our fish supplier. By 1 a.m., the venison was off the test menu. The braised short rib replaced it, and I had rebuilt pickup so saute and grill could survive a full turn. At 2:10, Julian, our maitre d', texted a screenshot. Elias's assistant had requested the sanitation binder, table turn targets, and cold storage certification before breakfast. I called him. Did the auditor request those? No. Save the email. Give records only to verified credentials. He also wants zero pacing control. He gets full capacity. He does not get unsafe service. Understood. By 3:30, the floors were scrubbed and every prep list rewritten. At 4, the back doors opened and Noah came through with an insulated seafood box balanced on his shoulder. You owe me a normal life. I have no inventory for that. He dropped the box onto stainless steel. 52 halibut portions, extra ice, supplier tags, invoices. I handed him a boning knife. Break them down skin on, save every tag. He studied me. You think the auditor's looking for traceability? I think Elias asked Julian for sanitation paperwork before sunrise. Noah's expression flattened. So this isn't just dinner. No. What else? Full house turn, no artificial holds. We control safety, quality, and lawful pacing, nothing more. Noah opened the seafood box. Then we make boring paperwork beautiful. That's why you're sous chef. I thought it was my knife skills. Those are adequate. He looked offended for exactly 2 seconds, then started scaling fish. By sunrise, the kitchen sounded alive again. Knives struck boards in fast and even rhythms. Stock pots murmured. Burners hissed blue. Noah worked the fish station while I moved down the line correcting prep before bad habits had time to harden. A new garde-manger cook was cutting radishes too thick. Stop! His hand froze. I stepped beside him and took the knife. Relax your grip. He loosened his fingers. I rocked the blade forward once. A thin red slice fell onto the board, almost translucent. Let the knife do the work. You're steering, not fighting it. He tried again. Better? Good. 20 more exactly like that. No shouting. Fear made cooks fast and sloppy. I needed precision until midnight. At 6:20, I brewed dark roast coffee. 1 splash of whole milk, no sugar. I poured it into the heavy ceramic mug Camille always used during construction meetings and carried it to the back office. I knocked twice. Come in. She was awake at the mahogany desk, surrounded by vendor statements and legal printouts. The family meal container sat empty beside her calculator. I set the mug on the only clear square. Her hand closed around it. You remembered? I remember orders. She took a sip and closed her eyes for half a second. How bad is the kitchen? Busy. That's chef language for catastrophic. No, catastrophic has a different face. She looked at the paperwork again. I spoke to counsel at 6. Elias can't just declare default because he dislikes dinner. The agreement gives him leverage only if the readiness test documents a defined operational failure. What counts? Food safety failure, service failure above the threshold, inability to execute capacity, material licensing problem. That's better. It's still enough for him to make trouble. What's the release mechanism? If we pass, counsel sends the compliance packet to the fund administrator tonight. Elias has until 9 Sunday morning to object with a documented contractual basis. Otherwise, the money releases. That was useful. A clock, a process, something measurable. I leaned against the door frame. Julian has front-of-house sanitation. Noah has supplier traceability. I rebuilt the menu around capacity. Camille looked at me over the rim of the mug. And you? I make hot things hot and cold things cold. Your humility is inspiring. I've been told. She almost smiled. Then someone knocked hard on the door. Julian stepped in without waiting. His tie was crooked. That independent auditor's downstairs. Camille checked the clock. 6:31 a.m. He's early. 3 hours early, Julian said. And Elias is with him. I pushed off the door frame. Credentials? Verified. He's from the third-party compliance firm listed in the operating agreement, not the city. Good. No mystery authority. A contract auditor doing exactly what the agreement allowed, at the worst possible time. Camille stood. I'm coming. I shook my head. You can observe. Don't answer kitchen questions unless he asks you directly. Her chin lifted. I own the place, and I'm responsible for food safety. For 1 second, we were both too tired to soften it. Then she picked up the ceramic mug. Fine, lead. The auditor waited in the lobby with Elias. He was a narrow man named Mr. Bell, carrying a tablet, a probe thermometer, and the expression of someone who preferred documents to conversation. Elias smiled when he saw us. Good morning. No one who schedules a surprise audit before 7 gets to say that, I replied. Mr. Bell glanced at me. I was told your kitchen would be in active preparation. It is. I'll need cold storage, hand-washing stations, receiving logs, allergen controls, and supplier traceability. Julian has the front-of-house sanitation binder. I have the kitchen records. Elias looked almost disappointed that I had not protested. We started with the walk-in. Cold air hit my face as I opened the door. Raw proteins sat below ready-to-eat items. Every container was labeled with product, prep time, cook initials, and use by time. Halibut rested over fresh ice with supplier tags clipped in clear sleeves. Mr. Bell probed the chicken. 36 degrees? He checked the lowboy log against the actual display. Matched. He inspected fan guards. Clean. He asked for seafood traceability. Noah stepped forward with a binder. Supplier invoice, harvest information, receiving temperature, delivery time. Mr. Bell turned a page. Elias leaned against the door frame. Check the new cook's station. I looked at him. Mr. Bell did too. I choose the inspection path, Mr. Ward. Elias straightened. Camille said nothing, but I saw the smallest shift in her posture. Mr. Bell moved to garde-manger. The young cook I had coached earlier passed the sanitizer, knife, and hand-washing checks without missing a step. At the host stand, Julian produced the front-of-house logs in the email, showing that Elias's assistant, not the auditor, had requested records in advance. I prepared these for verified review only, Julian said. Elias's jaw tightened. The audit lasted 94 minutes. Questions, temperatures, records, and no critical failure. At the end, Mr. Bell signed the readiness sheet. No critical findings, 2 minor recommendations, label replacement schedule, and an additional allergen reference at the pastry station. Done before service, I said. He looked at Camille. From a food safety and preparation standpoint, the operation is ready for capacity testing. Camille accepted the signed copy. Thank you. Elias stepped closer. This only proves the kitchen is clean. Camille looked at the document, then at him. It proves the first objective metric passed. Tonight is different. I know. You can still fail service. I know that too. Her voice stayed level. Elias seemed to want fear. She gave him a fact. He left without finding anything else to take. The second the front door closed, Noah leaned against the host stand. Can we all agree paperwork is now a food group? Julian loosened his tie. I'd serve it with the crudo. Camille laughed into her coffee. The sound was brief, but the room changed with it. Back in the kitchen, she sat on the battered wooden stool tucked beneath the corner counter. That stool had survived demolition dust, electrical inspections, and 3 months of Camille refusing to admit she needed to sit down. Her hands were clasped tightly in her lap. I pulled a chilled ginger ale from the lowboy, popped the cap, and handed it to her. She looked at the bottle. "You have a beverage for every crisis. Hydration is less expensive than litigation. That should be on the menu. Drink." She took a sip. The glass clicked lightly against her ring. I turned back to the whetstone on my station. Shink. The blade moved across wet stone. Shink. Camille watched the motion. "Does that actually calm you down?" "No." "Liar." "It gives my hand something useful to do." That answer, I believe. I rinsed the knife and dried it. She looked toward the dining room doors. "If tonight goes wrong, I can cover maybe 6 weeks without the final funds." I put the knife down. "Noah? His lease renews next month." "Julian?" "Supporting his mother." "The new cooks?" "Counting on full schedules." She looked at me. That's what I hate. It stopped being only my risk a long time ago. I opened the prep clipboard and set it beside her ginger ale. "Then don't carry what belongs to the system." She raised an eyebrow. I pointed to the page. "Noah owns fish. Julian owns floor pacing. I own the line. You own the contract and investor decision. If one person tries to hold all 4, we fail before doors open." She studied the list. Just names beside responsibilities. Camille picked up the pen. Under her own name, she wrote, "Document everything." Then she handed the clipboard back. "Better?" "Much." By 3 in the afternoon, the dining room was reset for the stress test. Julian had built a table map that met maximum capacity without compromising safe service lanes. Elias's invitation list included 2 local critics, several investors, hospitality operators, and people whose only qualification appeared to be expensive watches. At 3:20, Julian caught me near the pass. "Problem." "What?" "Elias's assistant asked me to seat 3 large parties within 5 minutes of each other." "That violates your pacing plan." "He says 0 pacing control means I have to—" "No. Full capacity means the room fills. It does not mean he gets to manufacture a service collision." Julian handed me a printed email. I read it once. "Forward this to Camille and her counsel." "Already did." "Good." He smiled. "You're rubbing off on me." "That sounds medically concerning." At 4. Camille came into the kitchen in a tailored black suit and white blouse, both chosen for the dining room rather than for effect. Her hair was pinned back. She walked straight to the battered stool and sat. I handed her the ginger ale without comment. She accepted it without pretending she did not need it. "Counsel replied," she said, "Elias can demand capacity. He cannot dictate individual seating times. Julian retains operational authority over the floor. Then Julian paces legally." "Correct." "And if Elias complains?" "I document it." I looked at her. She lifted the bottle in a small toast. "Systems. Now you're speaking my language." The kitchen doors opened. Julian stood there. "First guests in 20? I turned to the brigade. Conversation stopped. Noah wiped his hands. The garde-manger cook straightened at his board. I looked down the line. "Tonight is not about Elias, investors, or critics." I tapped the pass. "It is about one ticket at a time. Call back clearly. Taste everything. If you make a mistake, say it before I discover it. We fix problems early. We do not hide them." Noah nodded. "Yes, chef." The others followed. "Yes, chef." I turned toward the ovens. Fire. At 6:30, the printer started. Ticket 1, then 2, then 6. The dining room filled in controlled waves under Julian's pacing. Not slow, not gentle, full. At the pass, I called orders while pans struck flame. 2 halibut, 1 short rib, 1 vegetable tasting. Yes, chef. Fire 2 crudo. Yes, chef. Garde manger, I need that radish thinner. Working, chef? The new cook corrected without freezing. Good. Through the small glass window in the swinging doors, I caught glimpses of Camille moving between tables. She stopped at the critics' table, then at Elias's, then at the host stand, where Julian handed her a folded timing report. She read it, nodded, and returned it. No interference. No panic. The first hour went clean until Noah called. Lowboy 2 is climbing. The display touched 41. Move product. He cleared the drawers while I found a produce flat blocking the rear intake. I pulled it free, the compressor tone changed, and the temperature dropped again. No unsafe product. No hidden mistake. Noah exhaled. Caught it. You did. That sounded supportive. Do not get used to it. At 8:12, Julian came through the doors. Elias wants table 4's entrees immediately. They've only been on appetizers 9 minutes. No. He says the stress test measures speed. It measures service, not indigestion. Julian nodded. I told him 14. Good. He turned to go. Julian. Yeah? Log the request. His smile vanished. Already did. At 8:47, table 4 sent back the short rib. Noah held up the ticket. Elias says it's tough. I looked at the braise. Same batch as 31 other portions. Not one complaint. I took a clean spoon and cut into the backup portion at the pass. The meat separated under almost no pressure. Temperature? 148 holding. Sauce? Balanced. Timing? 6 minutes from pickup. Julian came in again. He wants you in the dining room. No. He's telling the table the kitchen has failed a quality metric. That changed it. I removed my apron, washed my hands, put on a clean chef coat, and carried the duplicate plate with me. When I entered the dining room, conversation softened. Elias sat at the center of table 4 with the returned short rib in front of him. Camille stood 2 steps away. One critic had her fork still in her own short rib. Elias leaned back. Chef, this is overcooked and unpleasant. I set the duplicate plate on the service stand. May I see the portion? He gestured. I pressed the back of a clean spoon against the meat. It separated. I did the same with the duplicate. Same result. Then I looked at the critic. Is your portion from the same course satisfactory? She glanced at Elias, then at me. Yes, mine is tender. The investor beside her nodded. Same here. I looked back at Elias. If you dislike the dish, I will replace it with another menu item. That is hospitality. But I will not record a batch failure where the batch has not failed. His eyes narrowed. You don't decide whether operational readiness was satisfied. No, the contract does. Camille stepped forward. Her move. She placed a slim folder beside Elias's plate. Mr. Bell signed the compliance portion this morning. Julian's service log shows every completed table within the readiness window so far. The kitchen has no documented critical failure. Your request to compress seating beyond the floor plan was also preserved in writing. Elias looked at the folder. You're threatening me in my own investment. I'm documenting performance under our agreement. Camille continued, if you have a contractual failure to identify, state it specifically. If not, stop manufacturing one in front of witnesses. Silence spread across the table. Elias's face tightened. You are taking an enormous risk. Camille did not look at me. Good. She did not need to. I already took the risk when I invested my savings in this building. What I will not do is hand you control because you made the room uncomfortable. She opened the folder. Council prepared the readiness notice this afternoon. If we finish service inside the agreed metrics, the compliance packet goes to the fund administrator tonight. You can object by 9 tomorrow morning, but the objection must identify an actual contractual failure. Elias looked around the table. The critic still had half her short rib left. Not because it was bad. Because she had stopped eating to watch him. He pushed his plate away. "Replace it?" I nodded once. "With halibut or the vegetable tasting?" He stared at me. "Halibut? Of course." No victory speech. No insult. I took the plate and returned to the kitchen. Behind me, Camille stayed at the table. Her battle. At the pass, Noah looked at my face. "Well? Fire one halibut for table 4. That bad? That boring?" He grinned. "Best possible answer." We finished the next hour without a major delay. At 10:03, the lowboy held 38. At 10:40, the last critic's table closed. At 11:18, Julian came through the doors carrying the service report. 96% of courses inside target, no safety incidents, no unresolved guest complaints. I signed the kitchen portion. Camille entered behind him with her counsel on speakerphone. Her eyes went first to the report. "Any critical failure?" "No." Julian handed it to her. She signed. Then she emailed the complete packet to the fund administrator while all three of us watched the screen. Sent. The timestamp read 11:23 p.m. Elias had until 9 Sunday morning to object with evidence. The battle was not over, but the burden had moved. We cleaned. No champagne, no victory speech. The line cook scrubbed stations, Noah wrapped product. Julian closed the bar and checked cash reports. Camille tried to stay. I pointed toward the battered stool. "You can sit or you can go home." "I can help." "You can't improve a degreaser." "That sounds like a challenge." "It is not." She sat. I brought her the leftover family meal. She opened the container and looked inside. "Chicken again?" "Consistency builds trust." "Your romance language is deeply concerning." The knife in my hand stopped over the cutting board. Camille looked up. I looked back. For 1 second, neither of us moved. Then Noah called from the walk-in. "Chef, do you want the herb oil dated for Sunday or Monday?" I turned away. "Sunday." Camille smiled into the container. I pretended not to notice. At 12:30 a.m., the building finally went quiet. The refrigerators returned to their low, steady hum. I stood at the white marble island with the bleach-scented towel in my hand, exactly where the 72 hours had started. Camille came up beside me. "You always clean when you're waiting?" "I clean when something is dirty. The counter is already clean." I looked down. It was... She leaned one hip against the island. "Then you're waiting." I folded the towel. 9 o'clock is far away. 8 hours? 7 hours and 27 minutes. She laughed softly. Then her expression changed. "If Elias finds a real objection, we answer it." "Yes." "If he invents one, counsel answers it." "Yes." "And if the money releases, we open?" She nodded. I could see exhaustion in the way her shoulders lowered, but she was no longer tapping glass or pacing the line. She simply stood beside me. "I'm going home," she said. "Good." "You're coming too." "I have pastry calibration." "No." I looked at her. She pointed toward my knife roll. "Your own system. Noah owns fish. Julian owns floor. I own contract. You told me not to carry everyone else's responsibility." That was different. "How?" I had no answer ready, which annoyed me. Camille smiled. "Go home, Adrian." I put the towel down. "Fine." She walked toward the front doors. I stayed behind long enough to cover the marble island, check the lowboy alarms, and touch the handle of my knife roll. Then I stopped. No second walkthrough. No third temperature check. I slid my favorite knife into its leather guard, shut the roll, turned off the kitchen lights, and followed her out. Sunday morning, my phone rang at 8:41. I was already awake. Of course I was. Camille's name filled the screen. I answered. "Tell me." The fund administrator rejected Elias's objection. I sat up. What did he claim? That your lowboy fluctuation at 744 was an operational failure. It never crossed 41? I know. Product was moved. I know. Julian logged. I know, Adrian. I stopped. Her breath came through the phone, shaky once, then steady. The auditor's report and your corrective log showed the system worked exactly as designed. No unsafe temperature, no lost product, no service failure. I looked at the wall clock. 8:42. So? The 100,000 is released. For 3 seconds, I said nothing. Then I heard something on her end. Voices. Noah. Julian. You're at the restaurant. So are they. You called them before me? Julian was already here. Noah claims he slept in his car. In the background, Noah shouted, "False and damaging!" Camille laughed. Get here. I was at the restaurant 20 minutes later. The front doors were still locked to the public, but the dining room lights were on. Noah stood behind the bar eating toast. Julian was resetting menus. The new cooks were filtering in through the back. Camille waited at the marble island with the ceramic coffee mug. My mug, or hers. At this point, the distinction had become administrative. She held out a printed bank confirmation. Funds received. I read it once. Then again, Noah raised his toast. Payroll survives. Julian lifted a stack of menus. Opening survives. One of the line cooks clapped. Then another. The whole brigade applauded. She only said, "Doors open at noon. Everybody gets paid. Let's make it worth it." Sunday launch started under a hard rain. At noon, Julian unlocked the doors and real guests came in. Neighbors, couples, a family, even one of the construction foremen who had helped restore the building. Ticket 1 printed. 2 crudo, 1 halibut, 1 short rib, Noah called. Fire! The kitchen moved. A sauce needed more acid. A seat number was wrong. The pastry oven needed 1 correction. Nothing collapsed. At 2, Camille came through the kitchen doors with an empty short rib plate. She set it at the pass. Table 7 asked me to tell the chef they hated it. I looked at the clean plate. Tragic. They may need another for quality control. Obviously, I plated 1 small tasting spoon of short rib and handed it to her. She tasted it. Her eyes closed for half a second. Still terrible. Send my apologies. She stayed at the pass for 1 breath longer than necessary. Then she went back to the dining room. At 4, the last lunch table left. Julian locked the front doors for the break before dinner. Noah pulled a tray of family meal onto the marble island. The brigade gathered around with mismatched plates. Camille carried the battered wooden stool from the corner and put it beside me. You finally moving into the kitchen? No. I'm preventing you from pretending standing is a personality. Noah coughed into his napkin to hide a laugh. I sat. Camille poured ginger ale into a glass for herself and coffee into the ceramic mug for me. Then she stayed standing. Before everyone disappears for the break, she said, I have 1 more item. The room quieted. I looked at her. She looked directly at me. Not as owner to chef. Just Camille. Adrian, tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, corner diner. Noah's eyebrows went up. Julian became suddenly interested in the bread basket. Camille continued before anyone could rescue either of us from the moment. Not a meeting, not a menu review, not investor business. She took 1 step closer. Breakfast, you and me. The refrigerator hummed behind us. Camille's voice stayed steady. If you say no, nothing about Monday changes. Your kitchen is your kitchen. Your job is your job. There was the boundary. Clean. Public enough to be a choice. Private enough to still belong to us. I looked at the coffee mug in my hand. Then, at the woman who had risked her savings without surrendering her decisions, who had stood at Elias's table and named the contract instead of asking me to fight it for her. I set the mug down. 9? 9. The pancakes there are terrible. I know. The bacon is acceptable. I'm aware. I eat a lot of bacon. A smile spread across her face. I budgeted for it. Noah covered his mouth. Julian failed completely and laughed. I stood. Then yes. Camille reached out and squeezed my hand once. Warm. Firm. Then she let go before the moment became a performance for the staff. Good, she said. Now eat before your own brigade files a complaint. The marble island filled with bread, roast potatoes, and tired laughter. After family meal, I went back to the pass. There would always be another service. I checked my favorite knife once, then slid it into its guard until dinner prep actually needed it. Then I carried my coffee to the dining room doorway. Camille was resetting one of the tables herself. She looked up. The same refrigerator hum reached us from the kitchen. Rain softened against the windows. The faint scent of roasted shallots still lived in the old brick. She smiled. Not the tight smile she had worn for investors. Not the exhausted one she had forced over a wine glass. This one had nowhere to perform. I leaned against the doorway. Camille? Yes? The appetizer was exhausting. She laughed. And the main course? I looked at the full dining room waiting for dinner service, then at the corner of the marble island where the ceramic mug sat beside the battered stool. Tomorrow at 9. Her smile widened. Good answer, chef. The end. Closing thoughts. The green flag was simple. Neither of us had to rescue the other. We showed up, did our part, respected the boundary, and kept our word. Please like and subscribe so we can share more stories like this.